We will be recording this call, so I hope everyone's all okay with that. And yeah, we're just so stoked to be here building community. And so, Dr. Weiping Yu, you have the floor. We're stoked to hear your presentation and have you introduce yourself. Yeah.
Okay. My name Weiping Yu. I currently working for NASA at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So I'm 8:40. So it's your local time 6:40. And today's talk is about the Uon theory and the blunder of the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics. By the way, do you still have anything you wanted to talk about, say to audience?
No, you should. No, it should be good. You can start your presentation. We're really excited to listen to it.
Okay, okay. Thank you. So all the views and opinions expressed here does not reflect that my organization, my employee, NASA. Okay, it's all my own. So the reason I'm talking about the Yuan theory and the blunder of the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics is because thank you to Dr. Kenneth Fernandez, the president of the Clean Health Organization, for your invitation. And also, he mentioned about it. Actually, more people wanted to hear about something new. It's about the Yuan theory. It's something of theory of everything, try to unify everything in the universe with one particle, one force, one field, and one principle, and one use one world, one universe. So I think if you are quite down, you should be able to understand the real universe is not complicated. It's actually quite simple. Okay, so uh, let me let me start the next page. Okay. So the reason I want to put the Yuan theory, talk this one before talking about what's the problem, why we call the blunder of the 2025 Nobel Prize, is because if we do not know what's the correct theory, we do not have a reference to know what's wrong with the current quantum mechanical theory. So that's why I have to introduce. I hope my voice is not too loud. Is that okay? My voice? Okay.
You're all good, Dr. Yu.
Oh, thank you. Um, so, so the Yuan theory is actually very simple. Okay. If you look at the so-called Yuan, U is a represent a particle. So U means universal fundamental particle. So when we use U and on represent the particle, so I put the two words together, called the universal particle or called the unified particle. So it's actually just a magnetic particle, just a magnet. So, however, I try to express why it's a universal. It forms everything from the matter, force, and energy. Sounds like incredible, too overly simple, right? I hope I will provide enough evidence to convince you the universe is really that simple. Okay, so Uon is a magnetic particle. And what is Yuan theory? So Yuan theory is try to explain the universe by just one particle. That's a magnetic particle. And the one force, magnetic force. One field, you have a magnetic field. One principle that's like a pole repel, opposite pole attract. And the one cosmos mean one universe. And the purpose, why I do this is try to restoring the true nature of the universe. So the key discovery actually I listed as a bullet three, restoring restoring the true nature of a charge, and then try to unify. And another thing is try to unify particles and force. The standard model, we have hundred, started with simple, say, hey, dozens of elementary particle. But if you include antimatter particle, and if you include any supersymmetry, if and the mirror particle, and uh, if you include all the combinations, right, and the generations of different particles, then it could have over hundreds of elementary particles. And from this study, I found none of those particles are fundamental. Actually, they all built it by just one magnetic particle. I call it Uon. So they are all composite particle by one more fundamental particle, Uon, to all of them. So you don't have to remember all those particles. It's unnecessary. And then finally restore physical causality. Okay, I probably spent too much on this one. Let's just go to next page. So this represents how one particle can manifestation of the entire world. Because of this particle, magnetic particle, it has a mass, it has a volume instead of a current mathematical model. Quantum mechanics is all volumeless, as point particle, right? So this is accounted as has a volume and accounted as a charge. Magnets have a magnetic charge, right? And then it can unify all the four fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetic force, strong force, and the weak nuclear force. Uh, so these are okay. Now I want to start something new here. So we all knew something wrong with physics. However, that's all physics agrees. Physicists agrees. We all know something. Lots of things are wrong with physics. It's never coherent. But the problem is we do not know where things get wrong. So I'm going to start it called fundamental errors in physics. Normally, people would believe problem with physics started in 20th century, say relativity and quantum mechanics theory, the birth of the two pillars of modern physics. But what I discovered, the problem is much deeper than that. It is actually started 1784. Okay, that's where the important. This is called the physics uh, called Charles Coulomb. He developed this is a fundamental law in electromagnetism, electrodynamics, called the Coulomb's law of static electricity. Very simple. Say, like charge repel, opposite charge attract. There is no problem with this part of the law. However, what this law implies, the negative charge particle and the positive charge particle carried by two separate entity. That means now the one entity has both negative and positive. It is two particles. Each particle carry a unique called charge, electrical charge, which I called this kind of particle called monocharged. It's a single charged particle. Okay, and that's what something wrong here. Sorry about it. So this is from your uh, Reclaim Health organization, the information. So okay. So what's wrong here? I just want to let you know that one thing is the so-called single charged particle. I will prove for you cannot exist. You know how significant it is. If a single charged particle cannot exist, that means electric charge cannot exist, which means electron cannot even exist. Okay, so let me explain why it is that. So the conclusion, the takeaway is a monocharged particle, say positive charged electron, proton, and or negative, electron, or a positive charge. That means a proton and the positron and the quarks, or negative charged particle, the electron or some quarks, right? Okay, so they cannot exist. This is the heart and the soul of the new discovery. So back to 241 years ago. If you understand this one, we need to rewrite Fick's book from the elementary textbook. Okay, so I hope you know the enormous gravity here. So let me see if I can convince you. So Coulomb's law defined implied there are monocharged, single charged particle called the electric charge. Basically, that's how it gets there. However, true root cause of the physical problem actually started 1897. That's called the J.J. Thomson discovery electron in 1897. So that's the end of the 19th century. And who win Nobel Prize in 1906. This considered extraordinary advancement at that time, at the end of the beginning of 20th century. People believe we already discovered all the natural laws in world. That's the time, and he proposed this one. And let me tell you, that's where entire physics, foundation of physics, fall off its wheel, run out of the rail, and it's run off the course. Okay, I know many famous physicists at this point might questioning, how can you say that one? I have a high respect to J.J. Thomson, but I have to tell the truth. Let's first. So how did he discovered called electron, and he named the electron as a negative charge particle? That's a single charge particle. I will show you this video. That's how he discovered.
Here we can see the electrons being deflected by the magnet. The cathode ray moves upward. If we reverse the magnet, we would predict that the beam would be deflected in the opposite direction. And we observe that the beam is deflected downward.
Okay, so based on this event called a cathode ray tube experiment, Dr. J.J. Thomson says, hey, we have electric charge, have particles. You see the particles, see the beam of light can be interacted with a magnet, which means we have particles, right? That's correct. We do have, without the particle, the beam cannot bend it, based on the direction of the magnets. So we know the light beam actually formed by particles. At that time, he claimed this is called the negative charged electron. Sounds very reasonable, and so that's why I accept for over 100 years, right? So, but let me re-explain this one. The beam of light. So this beam, the particle from this beam is not from electrodes. Electron eject from one side and fly to another side and then go through the current. It's not like a particle flowing one side that forming that beam. And I can prove that when there's no particles flowing anywhere inside of a tube, transverse from one side to another. I can show that one later on. But this beam actually formed by the gases. Sometimes they put some inert gas. Those are gas particles, or purely just say, hey, atmosphere, molecules. And what happens when you have a charge differential on the two sides. It creates the charge difference. It called magnetize, or it called ionize the particle. So make the particles, the gas particles inside, become ionized. Ionized means that they have a charge. That charge is actually magnetic charge. It's a magnetic particle. It is all those ionized particles are magnetic particle, but normally they appear as a neutral particle under high voltage differential, which means high magnetic different force, and it's unlocking all those neutral particles. Let me show you. You know, originally particles are neutral because they have both north and south stuck together, appeared as a neutral. So when you have a charge, which is a magnetic, differential, what happens? You dislodge it. Original appeared neutral particle now become a magnet is charged. So then what happens? The charged particle forming a beam of magnets. So that's why this beam of magnets interact with the magnets. It's not like a monocharged electrons interact with the magnets. I hope, because this is so important, I hope, let me calm down. So these two events, initially we got the electric charge, and then now we have, say, hey, electron. So then define electron have a negative charge particle. So what happens if somebody say you have something have a negative charge particle? Follow up is we also find this everything have a duality, right? Somebody discover positive charge particle. They win Nobel Prize too, okay? J.J. Thomson win Nobel Prize 1906. You know, somebody discovered neutron, positron, and quarks. So all these people, and you know what happens, and the Nobel Committee institutionalized, so here called canonized, this conceptual error. Oh, I have not to tell you where the concept, why the concept is an error, right? I will explain afterwards. Just say this is called a monocharged particle being reinforced by institution, educational academic institution. So we thought that this, of course, is correct, right? Okay. But if you look at, I put a flawed. All these discoveries are flawed. Okay, I will explain them. Thank you, David. Dennis, I'm not sure if you attended the Tesla Tech conference or not, but apparently you are you consent. I can see from your own heart, own knowledge. Okay, so now, and this institutionalized confirmation continues until this year. We have three people and win Nobel Prize in physics after they wrote the winning paper 40 years ago. Okay, so I have to congratulation to them personal achievement at this kind of environment, and they can still pushing something forward. So this is a achievement, life achievement. I have no resentment. I have no against them. I think they each deserve a full price of the Nobel Prize instead of share only a couple $100,000 for their life achievement time. I think this actually is not that fair for people, work day and night for humanity. However, did you see now there's a sign come out to say flawed? This entire quantum mechanics is flawed. So I'm not blaming them based on their best understanding, try to explain their experiment. Experiment is correct, okay? Can stretch the experiment to somehow to justify the existence of quantum mechanics and for future called the quantum computing. So that's why win their Nobel Prize. Okay, so they are smart men. So I give you the background. So why this year they win Nobel Prize in quantum mechanics? If you read the first slide, first point is this is centennial of quantum mechanics. This is the quantum mechanics year, started 1925 to 2025. You know, when I studied quantum mechanics, I always believe it should have started in 1913. That's the first time the Niels Bohr, the physics quantum, the father of quantum mechanics, he tried to write his what a college thesis, develop this theory called a quantum mechanics model, like a atom act just like a solar system. You have a nuclei inside in the middle, everything orbiting it around in certain orbits. So that's the model. But somehow it was very controversial at the time, and not until 1925. That's where called Heisenberg. You heard of Heisenberg uncertain principle, right? That's the Heisenberg. He's a marvelous mathematician. He developed called the matrix mechanics in 1925, and in the same time, his colleague called Schrödinger. You know this famous Schrödinger equation develop famous Schrödinger equation. So that's called wave mechanics. And that's called officially, mathematically or academically started quantum mechanics. Okay, so I probably talk too slow. So since this is 100 year of the quantum mechanics, birth of quantum mechanics, and also we have a quantum computing challenging start everywhere in the world. Everybody just like a big coin now. So people don't want to miss the train, right? Try to invest in this one. I'm warning you. If you listen today, you will know. And this is not going to be successful. Right now, we said have another 5 years. I would believe if they stuck with quantum mechanics model, another 25, another 30 years, or maybe forever. Okay, they cannot success unless they adopt the theory I call the Uon theory. I'm going to reveal you today. Okay, so to award people in the centennial 100-year milestone of quantum mechanics, and why are quantum computing so challenging, and also there's so many corrections, conceptual correction, understanding surrounded this quantum mechanics model. So that's why they award them. I'm happy with them. So that provide perfect opportunity for me to tell you what's wrong with this model. Use the new discovery called the so-called monocharged particle does not exist. Okay, let's keep going. So now I discovered the code inside and the discoveries of Uon theory. The reason I stopped to explain what's wrong with quantum tunneling, the award-winning, is because you have to understand, you have to understand what's right. So I'm gonna try to tell you what's right is the discovery of the theory. Without the contrast, you don't know where it's wrong, how it's wrong, why it's wrong. So I'm gonna start with this one. So I summarize it as three insights, key core insights. If you doesn't remember anything, if you know these three insights, you probably get hold of the gravity of this theory. The first one called a monocharged particle. I said monocharged means single charged particle. Electron, negative, is single charged. Positron, positive charge. Proton, is considered a positive charge, and the quarks has negative and positive charge. I don't know if you can see this one. All these non-monocharged particles do not exist. I have a stamp right on the right-hand side. It probably covered half of the on my screen. I'm not sure if it covered yours. It do not exist. What that means? Oh, this quantum mechanics particle does not even exist. How could quantum mechanics correct, right? So you know the implication. The second thing is the photon, we call the particle of light. That's a big misconception. Does not exist either. So so why I listed the photon? Photon is not a matter particle, right? Photon is actually is a wave. It's not a unique matter from the structure. It's a wave. It's not a particle. So the so-called particle of light photon does not exist. And why this is important? This because once I understand the photon is not a particle, it's a wave, then I find a wave demands called medium, so carrying the light, carrier for light propagation. So because of understand the photon is not a particle, then I understand we do demand of a medium, which means which means called ether. Just excuse me. Okay, so now we know quantum mechanics particles. Actually, I can say general. None of the particles in quantum mechanics model called standard model exist at all. You will see why they need to have hundreds of so-called elementary particles. Why? It missed one true fundamental particle. That's the number 3. That's called a Uon, called a universal fundamental particle, or called a unified particle, magnetic particle. Quantum mechanics model has all the particles listed. They're except without a particle have no electric charge and only have magnetic charge. Okay. Okay. So here is one of experiment I performed. I try to show you not only magnetic particle is fundamental, but I try to here to prove, okay, monocharged particle does not exist, and also prove only magnetic particle can exist or be observed. This is a huge claim. No one ever in our lifetime, in our universe as humans, say the world only built by one particle, and I'm gonna try to show you this is the only particle can manifest, can build our universe. I hope you can follow my logic. So let's assuming I'm wrong. Assuming there are single charge particles, say positron, positive charge proton or positron. Assuming we do have a charge, positive charge particle. What happens if I split them into halves? They becomes 2 half of a positron particle, right? Sounds no problem, right? Now, can we hypothetically split? Can we recombine them or unify them as a one original particle? We cannot. If we can, would be violate Coulomb's law, which like charge repel. If you look at the writing, on the right hand side. So that means this particle cannot be even hypothetically being a split. If a split, you cannot reunite because it cannot form one in the first place. It cannot exist. The same logic happens to the electron. Electron, if we hypothetically split half, and then can we unite them? We cannot. If we cannot, that means something cannot exist in the first place. I'm not gonna explain this further. Just so you know. And so this monocharge particle cannot. But now people say, hey, how quantum mechanics model? They have every particles, all the monocharge or no charge. Why? So how they make it work? Let me tell you how they make it work. They assuming everything particle and even distance and even time has a finite value. That's called yeah. so it has a finite value. Anything smaller than that value, the particle cannot exist. They said, oh, you cannot divide the electron, you cannot divide the positron. Okay, so if you do that one, that's called the Planck constant. Have a limited, so time have a smaller unit of time. Length have a finite length, and every particle has a finite mass or finite size. So this is completely what do you call the non-common sense, violate every single physical experience we have in the world, right? Okay, so I left one particle called the neutral particle. The neutral particle, which is different than I said the magnetic particle, because if you split the neutral particle, that's fine, you can. However, can a two neutral particle recombine itself? They do not have enough force. We know gravity cannot combine two parts together, like sand. You go to the beach, you cannot make two sands becomes one particle, right? The reason is the gravity force is too weak. I want to give you a sense of how much weaker than electromagnetic force. So everything we bind using electromagnetic force can bind them. Gravity is one is a 0.00 have a 36 zeros behind the decimals, and then have a one. You know, if we are counting for our salary, only two digits after our, so what they counting the pennies. So we call the other part as zero, right? If we counting on any digital number, I know many people call what is this Bitcoin investing, right? I don't know how small Bitcoin can split. Can you split have 36 zeros behind? So what I try to say is, whenever a particle has a presence of a magnetic or electromagnetic force, gravity is zero. That's why quantum mechanics model cannot resolve gravity problem, because in quantum mechanics model, they're dealing with atom, nucleus, all electromagnetic force. Gravity is zero. How can you kick their equation with zero number in there? So forget it. Okay. Okay. So I hope I'm not too slow, but these are so important concept. Okay, so now I can speak a little bit faster. So what left us? If a neutral particle without a charge cannot exist, and a single charge that cannot exist, the only particle I call the Uon, that's magnetic particle, has both charge together. You cannot separate. When you separate a magnet, I have another chart. So if you just show you what this for. That means if you divide a magnet, you become smaller magnets, right? So this is the only particle. Oh my goodness. Am I able to get back? Okay. So this Uon particle is the only particle missing from current all the fixed books. Okay. They treat magnetism as a product of motion of single charged electrons. Okay. So since we prove electron cannot exist as a single particle, of course. So basically, the only particle that's built the world does not appear in the quantum mechanics over hundreds of models. We call the particle zoo. That's you have nothing for me. I nothing too ridiculous than this one. Okay, okay. So, oh, excuse me. So I wanted to show one evidence. Um, so I'm talking about the only particle exists, is a magnetic particle, is based on theoretical concept, right? So I try to test myself. Am I delusional? If you are correct, are you able to create the universe based on magnets? if you look at those chart, those two small pictures on the left side, that's I use the magnets I bought, created. It can reproduce the atoms. I'm sorry. In this case, I would say the molecules exactly the same shape. Of course, there's a story here. So how did I come up with this structure? Initially, I have lots of magnetic particles. I grab a particle. I say, hey, I just compress them. They should form one particle. Turns out that that's not true. Always there's some bulging part, something repel. You cannot make them perfect fit. Then I started to say, hey, if that's the case, I said I use six magnetic balls form a ring. I try to make them, from two rings, make them, and then try to make them. No, I was unsuccessful either. And then I said, wow, the so-called unsuccessful is you do not have a stable structure. It always have something bumping up because the magnet has positive and negative or repel, right? So then I said, okay, I have to respect nature, study nature. So I counted every single molecules in this case made by five magnets are the ring. So two rings you can stick together. But in this case, you have two configurations. Either stick them on tip or in the middle. And after on the top tip one, it's easy to rotate, easy to break. So that's unstable structure. All the elements, most of our elements in the called the table, elementary table, right? Periodic table of elements. They are stable. So it has to slide in between. And then they form a very stable structure. Yeah. And somebody even counted. So that's a 12 magnets. You can make it a stable structure. And this is the picture I can find online, the most clear. Use this cutting edge technology, the most clear molecules and integrate atom at a nano size, 2 nanometers, the most clear picture. So I recreated this one. Okay, okay, so now I'm go to the next page. So I'm just a quick list of the insights. Now I'm gonna speed up. Okay, list the quick insights. One is called Coulomb's law. Coulomb law define we have a electric charge. I say, hey, we do not have electric charge, which implies we do not have electron and we do not even have the electricity or all the electron. The concept is actually built by magnets. Okay, I will explain. So the so-called charge, electric charge are magnetic pole. Did you see? The so-called positive charge is corresponding to north pole, and the negative charge is corresponding to south pole. So this is called the electric charge. It does not exist. Some people. I got one criticism from a famous professor. He said he lumped me as a electro universe bunch. No, he just one of the electro universe. I thought, he must not watching my video. If he watching my video, he know I uprooted the entire electrical out of my language. Okay, and then the next consequences. If electron does not exist, electron just a magnetic particle. Can we have a called orbital electron inside of an atom? So I said, hey, let's see if we can use a magnet orbit other magnets. You know what happens? Magnets always have positive and negative. It's not like a monocharged particle can repel or opposite, unlike a particle can attract. Magnets always have both north and south. It always find a way to connect together. So what that means? That means inside of an atom, it's impossible to have any moving called orbital electrons. So no moving parts. What does that mean? If there's no electron moving parts inside of an atom, where did we come out with electricity? We said that electricity is a flow of electron particles, right? There's no particle moving inside of atoms. Where comes electricity? So then the next question I said, I have to solve this one. since I never believed the electricity is the flow of electron inside of a solid coil, solid wire, at nearly speed of light. I never believed that. I thought that's just inconceivable. And then I found the right answer. That's after I get my PhD. And after I worked for NASA, and what happens? I found that there is no particle whatsoever moving inside of atom, and no particle moving. I'm sorry, so not moving. I'm talking about the translating or transport from one side to another port uh, inside of any conducting coil whatsoever. So then what happens with electricity? Electricity, actually, all the particles are magnetic particles. Remember, I said the universe made only one particle. When you use a magnetic particle, make a composite particle, every composite particle are magnetic particle too. Just like magnets, you cut it in half, becomes smaller magnets. But you unify, you connect them, they become one giant magnets, right? So that's why I found electricity actually no particle translating. Actually, everything's oscillating. If you think about how electricity generated, do I have that one? No, I do not have my manual generator. It's always rotating in the coil, rotating in a magnetic field, or a fixed magnet. Okay, rotating around the coil. It's all about the relative motion. You know, a coil rotating in magnetic fixed magnets, right? You rotating all the particles would be interact with magnets. Since you're rotating, so all the particles oscillating, vibrating. That's the essence of electricity. And this play a key role in so-called quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling means electron breaks through the barrier, goes through the barrier, travel to other source. Okay. And furthermore, so what's the key finding? If now we say, let me go further. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So if we do not have an orbital electron inside of atom, so that means there's no orbit inside of atom. What that means? That means we cannot have an orbital atomic model. So the entire physics, the body of physics right now, they all use symbolized with this kind of orbital electron model. So I would say since no electron inside of an atom, no moving parts, so this entire called modern physics atom model is a wrong model. You know the significance. All the textbook has to rewrite, right? Rewrite what called the charge, what called the electron, what is electricity, and what is quantum mechanics model. Oh, I'm sorry. This is called the atomic orbital model. Okay, one more, and then I'm gonna go back. So what that means, if we had, I hope you can see. Oh, first of all, so this chart is the is the state of the art or the supposed called the human's peak knowledge, the body of all the human knowledge over the humanity about the physics is is all lumped in this called the fundamental particle and interaction. This is the standard model of physics. So all the physics theory, relativity theory, and quantum mechanics theory all lumped into this model. It's called the standard model of particle physics. I would say this is entirely flawed model. So if you look at the title, no orbital electron means no quantum mechanics. Sounds like a too far distance. So let me walk you through. If you look at the flow chart on the left side, if we have no orbital electron, no electron orbiting inside of atom, so we have no orbitals, which means we do not have energy levels. That means we do not have a quantum jump. Where comes the quantum? Quantum describe electron, the moving electron jumping from one orbit to another orbit we call the different energy level. There is no moving parts. How can you jumping them? So okay. So if no quantum jump, that means no wave function. What is a wave function? They try to describe, that's the whole starting of the quantum mechanics. We try to describe the location of electron, try to trace them location at the time. We found we cannot find it. The reason is that there's nothing moving, right? Of course, they could not find it. So now they said, okay, I cannot find it, but we are assuming there exist, and we use a mathematical function that describe the location of electron. So that's called a wave function. Is a function describe the location and the density or whatever, the electrons. So since and they assuming this model is orbital atomic model. Just So they adopt this orbital atomic model. They adopt orbital. That's wrong. That does not exist. They adopt that one, and assuming the nucleus made by monocharged particle is the quarks. Quarks has a called a fraction charge, has a positive and a negative. So upper quark, down quark, something. Okay. So entire quantum mechanics built on, if you look at the bottom takeaway, is quantum mechanics built on two false assumptions. One is a monocharged particle. All quantum mechanical particles are either I can say either monocharged particle or no charge. So that's called a neutrino, supposed neutrino. But the problem is, if a neutrino does not have a charge, how could a neutrino actually interact? Because vibration oscillating, neutrino in oscillation. No charge, neutral, and somehow interact with the oscillating. Doesn't make any sense, right? So basically, I would say entire quantum mechanical model built on two false assumptions. One is a monocharged particle. All the particles are monocharged or no charge, right? And then orbital atomic model. So that's why I said it's fatally flawed. I said besides the people from the Tesla Tech conference, you will be the first one I publicly, to the organizing ones, I would reveal this knowledge. So I'm congratulate, I'm appreciate you are attending this one, because Dr. Kenneth told me you need to talk about the Uon theory, not just about the problem with Nobel Prize. He said that's something people have not heard of. And so that's why I want to share off. And then from now on, I believe you have enough grasp what's the fundamental problem with quantum mechanics. Now we can talk about the problem I call the blunder, the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics. It's all about quantum phenomena called quantum misrepresentations, quantum confusions, and I try to correct that. Kenneth, I may loss of time count, and you remind me, if it's over too long, you give me some few seconds, I can go faster.
Yes, we still have 20 more minutes.
Oh, 20 more?
Yes, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, I hope I can organize them within 20 minutes, because we got the hardest part off my shoulder. Okay, so now you should have all the tools necessary to critique just like I did. So what's wrong? Let me tell you, I watched so many videos because so many requests from them to me. Say, hey, can you make a comments on this the Nobel Prize? I never cared until Dr. Kenneth tell me, hey, you are invited to have a talk. I said, what would be most interested? So I said, okay, for me, for people constantly contact me, They all want to know what's wrong with the so how great or so understanding what the quantum tunneling means, right? So I thought maybe this is the most interesting concept. So I thought, wow, that's good time. So I studied, and let me tell you, I have not found any correct answers from all the people, all the videos on the internet. I have not found even one. They all praise. So I don't want to be the bad person, reputation wise.
You're the good
I
person.
want to be truth telling. Okay, so the subtitles is what they actually did. They claim a lot. So let's look at what they actually did. They wrote a paper in October 1985. Okay, so that's why we counted as 40 years. So this is the paper winning their Nobel Prize by perform one simple experiment. Maybe the experiment involved two different sites. Okay, just did the experiment, and then they wrote a paper and claim all the quantum mechanics findings and prove all the greatest, what is the mysteries in quantum mechanics, prove them are correct, and win them Nobel Prize. I'm not to blame them. They did their best, and actually they did their actual testing better than theoretical physicists. The celebrities, they never did any test, have no knowledge about how how real world working, and they win Nobel Prize. Not even know thing about it. Okay, so what they did test? If you look at the paper, they use the term to describe a very simple test. They use the term nobody would if you do not have a certain dozen years of physics understand, you will not understand what they're talking about. What they test, they just say, hey, we have two conducting wires. If you look at the black one, just the electro wires, right? But this time they said, hey, we make this wire to be a superconducting material. The reason is superconducting material, you can cooling them down to nearly zero temperature. And then they hope, now superconductivity's effect gonna show you some different effect. So that's the concept. So basically just two wire connected. However, they have a little cut in the middle filled with called the insulator. So that's now the electrical conducting material. Okay. And then they applied called the direct current. Did twice. One uses electric current, testing one insulator, and another one uses a different electric current value, testing different insulator. Okay. Of course, they might performing in order to make sure the work they performing maybe is hundreds of tests too. Okay, so just perform the two tests, and what they find is they sort of have a direct current go from one direction. Okay, direct current. They say, hey, we apply positive. The current flow positive is opposite to the electron flow, right? The whole confusing with electricity. I will explain this one maybe at a time. So they said, hey, we applied the positive direct current flow in one direction, and what happens? And we have an insulator, and we detect there's electrical current. They can direct this, this is short screen block that one. So there is an ammeter, so measure current. They said, hey, we can measure the current. And what their explanation is, somehow electron can go through the barrier, even though electron does not have that energy go through it. But in quantum mechanics, quantum mechanics make no sense, right? So that's why I make it so powerful. Any classical theory cannot explain. Say, hey, we have insulator does not allow electron to cross. Why we detect electric current on the other side? Now, classical mechanics cannot explain. They always invoke quantum mechanics. Say, hey, quantum mechanics allow them tunneling means go through it, regardless how much force you have. Everything becomes a probability. So if you use probability function calculate, because probability never goes zero, right? So you always have something called escape. Okay, so that's all they did. Applied direct current, control the current level, and then with two different insulator, right? Basically test the two different materials. Okay. However, how could this one win the Nobel Prize? This is the results. This is the chart of the results. Few people understand what that means. Okay, win the Nobel Prize. Because you have to have data, right? Theoretical physicists does not have data support. So right now, Nobel Committee move away from award Nobel Prize to purely theoretical physicists. So they stay towards the physicists and have experimental confirmation. Okay. So now, so I overlaid my own notes. So try to make sense of it. So they basically try to compare they did two different tests. One is called the classical junction. The junction means that's insulator. Insulator is joined, right? They use this insulator, the whole setup that we call this Jonathan we call the quantum mechanics junction test. Okay, so they did two tests. One is a classical junction, so they have a certain electrical current, and then they did another one, use another current, try to calibrate this material, insulated material, and to detect anything that deviated this straight line. And at a very low temperature, the variable here is the temperature. They try to lower, because superconducting material can sustain lower temperature, have some kind of effect. So they find, oh, you have a deviation. The white circle is a classical junction, means this can be explained by classical electrodynamic theory. So that means nothing new.
Dale de comer a este. Me voy a acostar. Solo 7% agarró de carga esta carambada, no agarró nada.
I think I have a questions. Can you translate? Oh, that's another question. Okay. Maybe somebody's mic is open. So that's why they detect, hey, some little bit of deviate these particles. So that means they find that means electron on one side somehow leaked to the other side. So that's how they discover called quantum tunneling. The other one does not consider deviate because it's almost around the linear line, so not different enough. Why they said it's not deviated enough? That means basically independent of it depends on temperature, because when you have high temperature, you always have a leak. In classical electrodynamics, also have a leak, but that's have a temperature effect. In this case, they use superconducting, cooking them nearly zero direction. Okay, I'm sorry. I probably used another 10 minutes. So let me go faster. So what's they claimed for? Okay, I'm sorry. What they claim they observe quantum tunneling, means electron cross the barrier, go to the other side. Okay, and they also said not only electron cross the barrier, goes to other side. They said also observe, we have a millions, they saw when normally, this is the chart. Let me show you. They said this is the chart with this Nobel Prize-winning presentation. They provided this chart. They said that not only electron, we have a millions electron leak from one side to the other side. If you look at the middle, right, you have junk cut it, right? And then It says all the electrons acted as a one unison. They acted as one moving, basically it's oscillating in the same rate. Okay, it's oscillating, it's not moving. But they said, hey, now all the electrons are moving unison, act like a one. You know why they do this one? They try to stretch to match quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics cannot describe every single electron. It can use a wave function, the psi function, represent only one electron. But then you have a millions of electrons. How do you model the world? You know what they happen? They say, hey, they just act, they act as one electron. So I just use one wave equation, represent all of them. You know, this is all try to set their feet, the ego of quantum mechanics wave function, okay? Because they truly believe wave mechanics, quantum mechanics wave equation are correct, you know? Everyone want to have a piece of correctness. Okay. So and then another claim called quantized level. When you have a quantum mechanics means you have a different energy level inside of atoms, right? Different level. And so in order jumping from one level to another level, quantum mechanics said you cannot continuous go through. You have to disappear and reappear to the other orbit to make that model work. Otherwise, if you just like say, if you just like Mercury, let the Mercury slowly drift away from the original orbit, it's possible, right? Or somehow it's possible. But if you allow them to drift continuous with time and in space, then it's no longer called quantum mechanics model. That's called classical mechanics. So that's why quantum mechanics model dealing with everything does not make sense classically. So that's why it's completely wrong. I'm sorry. I probably too harsh on them. Okay. Okay. So now, so that's what they claim. So now I try to say what really happened. So this is I'm using Uon theory to explain them. So this chart probably too busy for you guys. So I want to make sure the charts will be available for you guys if you are interested. You know, I sent Ken a chart, main chart, not those smaller additional chart, a backup page, but the main chart you have. So the first mistake they made is misrepresenting quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling means something goes through the barrier. In this case, there is no electron go through anywhere. Electron does not move. So how can you go through them? So quantum tunneling is misclaimed. Okay. And the second thing, so why they claim that one? Because they misunderstand electron and electricity. They're assuming electricity made by flowing of electron. So what I said, that there is no flowing electrons in electricity. Maybe let me show you some smaller charts. Okay, show you some logic here. The so-called quantum tunneling is a misguided concept built on false barrier. Okay, how do I say? Is first of all, I prove there's no called electric charge. It's all magnetic dipole. Okay, there is no single charge. Electric charge does not exist. If electric charge does not exist, so there will be no called Coulomb barrier. What is Coulomb? Coulomb laws talking about the static electricity. Coulomb barrier means like charge the electric charge repel, opposite electric charge attract. So Coulomb barrier basically you have a like charge charge repel. So if there is no electric charge and no Coulomb barrier means every particle have a magnetic particle. Magnetic particle initially, even though like a pole initially they attract, they repel, but what happens is they rotate and then attract. So that's after initial moment, they starting rotate and then attract. The end result, they are attract. So there is no barrier to cross. Number one, they have no charge, no moving electron, no barrier, and then they cannot have quantum tunneling. Okay, so So that's the part. The second part, I try to say there is no electron flows. So that means the tunnel charging run on multifaceted. One is one is electric charge, barrier, Coulomb barrier. Another one is electron flow. So nothing flows, nothing penetrates. How can you have a tunneling? That's totally ridiculous. Okay. And then the third misconception about the superconductivity. This is a big research. Okay, I've been invited by many meetings. I try to explain them. Superconductivity is completely misguided because they do not understand what the electricity, and they think about it. Oh, superconductivity create a condition with zero resistance. They don't even know where electricity resistance come from. So that's why the physics book need to rewrite, electrodynamic book need to rewrite too, right? Okay. And then another one is called a misclaim called the macroscopic quantum tunneling. So now the individual electron cross the barrier. They said all the electrons are acting as one electron called a macroscope. Macro means a super large system, right? So now so macroscopic electron tunneling. So the claim is so many simple test with so many claims, and then they said, oh, they also identify quantimes. Quantum mechanics, in order for quantum mechanics to be correct, you have the quantum levels, right? Inside of atoms, right? Since no level, so none of them correct. Okay, so I'm not gonna wasting. And this is the chart I just summarized the two theories. One is a quantum mechanics theory applied to computing. You don't need to look at anything else. You just need look at the very last paragraph. It's all about the probability calculation because quantum mechanics phenomenon is statistical based. Nothing concrete, yes or no. Is everything's maybe probabilistic. So Uon theory, everything is deterministic. So then, my question: would you trust a probabilistic-based computer, or would you trust a deterministic-based computer? So under current direction, quantum mechanics is totally misguided, founded on wrong principle, and will give you garbage results. You cannot have you give me 70% or 95% of probability to correct. And most of the quantum mechanics results are never accurate, right? So, okay. So I'm going to close my talk by mentioning the topic beyond today's talk. I do not have time to talk. One is solve the biggest mystery in cosmology: gravity, relativity, origin of mass, dark matter, dark energy, and antimatter. So I don't have time to talk about it. If I talk about it, probably double the time. And another part of things I did not get time to talk is try to unify all the forces. So gravity, electrical force, magnetic force, electromagnetic force, and strong force and weak force, elastic force, chemical force, biological life force, and the nuclear force. I do not have time to talk about. I don't even have time to talk all this one during my Tesla Tech 1.5 hour conference. So I'm not gonna try anything like that one. And the last group is called the three fundamental: the origin of universe, origin of life, origin of consciousness. Most of the time, I was working on the origins of universal life and consciousness for your presentation, for your meeting. But in the middle of the, so I asked Ken. I said, hey, should I present this one, or I have alternative of other, people constantly ask about the people win Nobel Prize. And actually, Dr. Ken gave me a freedom. So I said I personally prefer talk about the hardest topic related to the world right now is the people win Nobel Prize. But for these three, the origin of life, these are the secrets of universe. I made some other day if I have the talk, but just tell you, sorry about it. I have slides ready, but I leave it for other time. I believe this is my last page. Say the Uon theory is everything. Basically says the entire universe is made by only one particle. That's a magnetic particle. I call it Uon, universal particle or unified particle, and made by one force, magnetic force. That's the force to forming all the different forms of the matters. Okay, and the one field. That's a magnetic field. And one principle, which is Coulomb's part of the Coulomb's law, is electron. I just use that as a magnetic law. Say, like magnetic charge repel, opposite charge attract. I believe this is my last page. Thank you very much for staying with me for that long, and open up for any questions.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Yu. It was fascinating. In the end, it gets kind of philosophical, right? But I mean, it's physics, and we appreciate your views and your work. If you have a few minutes for some questions from the public, maybe there's someone who wants to something. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Yu. Thank you so much. I think that this is going to be a lot. You said the next 30 years, but I think that this is going to have to be implemented hopefully sooner versus later, especially in medicine, and especially in how we're replacing chemical medicine. And even at the technology conference, there was a lot of researchers and doctors there that are and have been implementing frequency medicine. And magnetic medicine, and I stand strong behind that. And during the time that when the I guess the wrong theory was being proven in the 1700s, that's also when frequency medicine was also introduced to humanity, and it was kept from us. So have you and are you going to continue to publish this and you apply for the Nobel Peace Prize?
No.
I think you should. I think you should, because I think that this is something that, when we have the ability to utilize consciousness like you have, and you are pulling this information down through your physical vessel, this is something that needs to be impregnated into the collective consciousness. So I think, this work can span to many different applications, and to speak to Dr. Ken and his conference, there 30 years is a long time. And I think that if we can take your presentation and what you have proven and apply it to medicine and apply it to technology, it's going to be fast-tracked.
Thank you for your kind words. And I believe you mentioned about called magnetic medicine. That's the right path.
Yeah.
And I believe once people understand how so-called quantum tunneling is a magnetic induction or magnetic alignment. If you just changing your concept, you do not need to make it super cool, called superconducting. All this quantum mechanics laboratory, they have been cooling entire volume of the device to less than 1K. Is almost zero, almost absolute. Even at the empty space in universe, the minimum have a 3K, that's a Kelvin temperature. So they have to spend so much things try to make it work and not even correct, right? So I believe you are right. If you use a collect concept, I know you have a higher consciousness, you have a higher energy. Maybe through resonance or somehow and your connection or something, we can make resonance with the world. So then we understand. Instead, we try to use this called quantum leak, quantum pairing. We use magnetic force. Magnet has a north and south.
Right.
You have two different states. Add to it, just not right now. We computer use on and off, two modes. if you count it as magnets, not only you can split on means have electricity. You can split the on with two modes, north and the south. Now you have added another dimension to it. So now you compute the power exponentially. Probably, right? Many people try to come up with try to do something, I would say, but they do not have the right words. Okay. They say, oh yeah, if we can do that when we can quantum. So nobody truly understand the quantum mechanics, right? So that's why when they use quantum mechanics, they represent something they said maybe can get us had a tremendous. Thank you for that one. And
Thank
I
you.
think we need your help. And
Yeah.
I know you have a lot of influence. Okay.
I want to thank you too, Dr. Yu. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Clara. Yes.
Yes, nice meeting you. This was a very exciting exposition you had. I loved it. I loved every little piece of it. I love your passion too and your excitement. You know prion. Have you ever heard about prion? Prion is this magnetic masters that channels through someone. He's been channeling for like more than like 35 years. And he's been talking about what you are talking today for 30 something years. I mean, this was not predicted, but it was a potential in humanity. I mean, we needed to get here, and you are taking the world right there where we need to be now with all that knowledge, with all that discovery, that is going to change, like Alison was saying. I mean, it's going to change everything. I mean, when you were saying about the neutrons and electrons and that, I said, dang, these people will need to figure out how to explain the weather in a different way, because they tell you about the clouds and the electrons crashing and even that is so elemental, but they will need to reconsider the wording. I mean, the physics or the magnetics that is going on in a storm that is so different than what they are saying now, right? But that's I just found it so exciting, and that we are here now, because like she was saying too, I think this is going to be a real this is going to bring this is going to change everything. This is going to change everything. The way cars move, no more gasoline, no more heating the houses in the same way. The traveling, I mean, it can change everything. It's going to take time, obviously, right? So I just see you as a channel of the universe, bringing this information at the right time. Very, very interesting. I appreciate a lot, and grateful that I had the chance to hear you. And maybe I'll meet you someday. But thank you so much. This is awesome.
I see you constantly acknowledging. I know you understand them from your personal experience and from is embodied. All these are very fundamental to human beings, and I can tell you truly receive it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. So, Dr. Yu, how do you see yourself putting forth this information for a wider public? I mean, I guess you're publishing some of your work, and yes, how are you working towards this?
That's a good question. One thing is I'm still currently employed by NASA, right? As a government employee, we still have a lot of restrictions on publications, However, one thing is I'm writing a book on the third a third draft. I work out the two draft, but it's too long. It's now still have over 600 pages. I was told by another Ken during the Tesla conference. He wrote several books. He told me he's a producer. He's with the book agent want him to reduce 400 pages to 150 pages. So I said I have to do some hard work to make the less difficult for people to read.
Yes, and are you restricted like to be interviewed by media in the US, like to put forth these ideas, considering that it shatters the conventional models?
As long as I actually, you might have saw the video I presented during the test attack, the first introduction. I did attend many media interview, so it should be fine in US. But this time, I was accepted your invitation to travel for your conference. But after I talked to my boss, they're afraid physically, moving outside may have some disadvantage for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I will say sorry to Dr.
Yes.
Ken, the
Yes.
CEO of the company. So it's what an honor for you to invite me. Thank you.
Yes, it was an honor for you for me that you expressed interest, and maybe sometime, I mean, things will change in the future, hopefully for the good, and you'll be able to
Yeah.
come and
I,
travel
I,
and
I will
speak freely.
promise one day I will join your your meeting anyway.
Yes. Are you planning to participate again in the Tesla conference next year?
Oh, you are. I may not be because Terrence Howard may not may change his idea, so I may not be there.
Hmm.
But we never know. Never say never.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us. We really appreciate, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody, for your
again,
participation. Have a
and
good day.
to the
Bye.
vice.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you
thank
so
you.
much,
I think that's
guys. Thank you,
Alistair.
Dr. Yu. God
Oh,
bless you, and keep spreading the truth about what your research and your discoveries, because I agree with you. It becomes so obvious once you realize how inverted the entire system is, and if we eventually award people awards in the future, you definitely win our Common Sense Award.
thank you. Win your award from heart. More important than Nobel Prize. Half
Yeah,
of them
I think
are
so.
wrong condition.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I think the powers that be control a lot of these prizes to shift ideology and academia towards their agendas, and I think the evidence you bring forth kind of showcases how they've skewed the system accordingly with their sort of narratives, their agenda. So it's very interesting to sort of understand, the truth and the reality, because a lot of truth has been suppressed. We've seen this over the past 5 years. We've seen this throughout history. Cars can operate on water. Maybe electricity isn't the way they've described it to us. Maybe pharmaceuticals aren't the way they described it to us. Maybe this and that, right? So it's
Agree,
incredible
100%.
you're spreading your truth, and we're here to help you continue to do so. So we really applaud your efforts.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yu.
Okay, I have to say bye. I
Yes,
know you guys are busy,
have a
so
good
I'm
night.
gonna stop sharing. Okay,
Thank
talk
you.
to you
Yes, talk
in
soon.
other way. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh.